Welcome to the program. I'm Mark Imperial. This segment's brought to you by booksgrowbusiness.com. It's the place where busy professionals get their books done and published to educate consumers, grow their businesses, and to leave a legacy. I'm doing a series of spotlights on remarkable business intermediaries and exit planning advisors from across the country. Joining me on this segment is Brian Church. He's the founder of Advisory DNA. Brian, welcome to the program.
Mark, thanks for having me on.
Tell us a little bit about your work, and specifically, who are those types of clients that you specialize in helping?
Well, look, I'm a serial entrepreneur myself, right? And I've been through the process of exiting, been through the process of the transference of a business. And so over the years, having done that myself, I naturally gravitated to wanting to work with entrepreneurs and helping them start their businesses and eventually monetize or exit their businesses or set them up for continuity and succession. So that's really the origination. Though my bent or my area of expertise is I've just been a student of the way humans react to one another during a deal making process or a succession process, or it's really the economics are usually the easiest thing about it. What's tough are these humans, which you and I are one of them. So that's the area of focus that we've really taken. And I'll talk about this a little bit more, but that's what brought me into 13 years ago, starting what today we've renamed it a couple of times as Advisory DNA, because it's really about alignment and compatibility. It's about that DNA fit. The economics, yes, those are a part of the deal, one of the 5 major pillars. But at the end of the day, that's usually in a contract. It's the other things that are not in a contract that can absolutely blow up a succession plan, can blow up an exit plan or a monetization process. So that's what we do. We've been doing this 13 years. And specifically, to answer your question, we work with financial advisors. We do work with some folks in the tech world and some services-based industries and some products, but 95% of our business is helping folks through succession, continuity, and exit planning, and occasionally a transition from one firm to another. But we've digitized that process. It's an investment banking process, but we've made it very behavioral. And so we work with those financial advisors, financial advisory firms in that process, not necessarily for their clients, for them specifically.
Gotcha. Yeah, these business owners, they're great at growing their businesses, but when it comes time to exiting their business, do they give it much thought or even know where to begin?
Well, in our industry, in wealth management, financial advisors, it's a little bit easier. It's probably one of the closest mark to market, as I would call it, businesses, because there's a general accepted practice of what these businesses are worth. Today, 2 to 3x top line, give or take. There's always the albatross that's out there. And then somewhere between 5 to 10x EBITDA, which is a wide range. It's probably more towards 7 to 10x today. And then those mega firms can jump to 10 to 15x. There's people out there doing some wild deals. But with that being said, sometimes what that does, because you know what your value may be, you don't think about what your eventual exit is. And if you took a look at the advisory business today and these owners and the number of them that are probably preaching planning and talking about exit planning and succession planning to their business owner clients, it's greater than 70% of them do not have one for themselves. So I think they know about it. Are they thinking about it? Not necessarily. Had a conversation this morning with a gentleman who's not getting any younger. And, valuations are high. The market has taken a step back, but it's still high. And, relatively speaking, in the last 10 years. And if it doesn't change his business, why not take a few chips off the table, or at least be thinking about it? Because I'll tell you this, and I'll be quiet here, Mark. You're on offense in this until you're on defense. Okay. And when you get on defense with regards to selling your business, succession, and continuity, you do not get the ball back. Very rarely. So I hope they're thinking about it. That's really what our main mission is. And I'll expand on that in just a second.
So, one of the goals here was to shed light on exit planning itself and the services of exit planners, because it's amazing that a lot of business owners aren't aware that they exist.
Right.
So, what are some of the like preconceived notions that these business owners might have in their head that may sabotage their successful exits? What are they thinking? What's on their mind? What's the most important thing to them?
Well, they're either have not prepared for their own financial plan and thought through that, right? I mean, that's just one of the first pillars of exit planning is, not what's your number, but what is your life going to look like? So we were fortunate enough to trademark a phrase, best vocational life. That's what we're after. Part of your best vocational life is the monetization or the successful succession of your business one day, that continuity aspect. So, I think they're thinking about it, just as I said before, but they're not necessarily doing much about it. The first step of it is do I need the money? For most business owners, most entrepreneurs, is their company is their largest asset. I remember telling my father he needed to invest more into his 401k. And he said, son, my 401k starts at that door, pointed at the front door, and ends at that door, pointed at the back door. That's like most folks. With financial advisors, it's a little bit different. It's usually not their largest asset unless they have a very sizable firm, 500 million in assets or larger. And so they may not be thinking about that, but they really need to be thinking deeper because it's about the continuum of care of that client base just as much as it is about the monetization of their business. And living your best vocational life, a lot of that is, most people got into the financial advisory business. Yes, it can be rewarding financially, but they want to help people. And so what is that impact that you're making? And is your legacy going to be a drop off in the continuum of care and that impact? So that's what we really try to get to the heart of. What do you love doing, right? What would you do for free? Why are you doing the things that are draining you instead of the things that you would do for free? And what does that look like in your business? And how can you continue to do that, elongate as long as possible, but removing as much risk, de-risking as much as possible in that process?
Brian, what inspired you to get into this field to begin with and help other business owners with their exits? How did you get started?
I got into the business after a very quick and failed college football coaching career. So I had done an internship in Boston with a money manager called Putnam, and went up there and then really got involved with helping financial advisors and trying to be consultative and not just selling a mutual fund, and to help them scale their businesses. And in doing that, kind of the next step was to go out and entrepreneurially start a scratch shop in Nashville, Tennessee, with some help of some other great folks and a gentleman that really taught me that side of the business and financed our start. He was in Memphis and I was in Nashville. But as we grew to about 18 advisors, I realized I was more of an evangelist and an apostle than I am a pastor. Not the guy to sit there every single day and ask you how many appointments that you had. So I'm not a great manager, but what I love doing is activating relationships. And the first book that I wrote was called Relationship Momentum. And it's really about how to propel, because just like there's in physics, there's laws of physics that are irrefutable. I think there's irrefutable laws of relationships, and momentum begets momentum in every single case. And so what I loved was doing that and activating those relationships. I love the art of the deal, but I love seeing people creatively move forward because of that proverbial force multiplier, as Colin Powell once said, right? The 1 + 1 = 5. That's what I love. And so that's really what I migrated to about 13 years ago. And in one way, shape, or form, I've been doing that ever since, whether it's through startups, it's through digitizing the investment banking process, helping people exit. That's what I love doing. And that's really the origination of that is trying to be a student of those relationships. How can you create momentum, whether it's a date, it's a deal, whatever, right? Relationships need momentum.
Before I ask you my last question, is there anything that I didn't think to ask you that you feel is important to share with business owners listening that are considering selling or exiting their businesses now or in the near future?
Concentrate on alignment and compatibility, not just the number. The number is important. You should begin with the number from a financial planning perspective, especially if this is your largest asset. But think about alignment and compatibility. And alignment and compatibility is not just a set of 10, 20 questions. It goes so much deeper. and really has a lot to do, yes, in the investment management business and the financial planning business. It really has a lot to do with what you have, from are you an active manager? Are you a passive manager? Are you a goals based or a cash flow based financial planner? Right. But at the end of the day, it really comes down to culture, behaviors, and values, because that will be the thing that's the non-negotiable, that's either going to break up the deal down the line if you're lucky, right? Or you end up getting married proverbially and it breaks it up, and causes a divorce later from a business perspective. So that's what I would impart. And there's ways to do that. We love helping people do that, have a pretty unique way of doing it.
For folks listening who would like to speak with you, how can they find you, connect with you, and learn more?
You can go to advisorydna.com, advisorydna.com. And there's plenty of buttons to punch on in there. We're not going to bother you and send you a bunch of junk, but if you'd like to speak with us, we'd be happy to do that. Or just email me directly, brian@advisorydna.com. And we'd love to have a conversation. We have a free 3-step process that begins with an assessment of what your DNA is. And then secondly, you're going to have a discovery meeting with myself, one of our analysts. And last but not least, we're going to give you unabashed guidance as to what to do next. And that really is the first corridor of what we do. You're not going to get a bill. And how do we know where to go with you until we know what journey you're on? So we'd love to hear from you.
Brian, this has been terrific. I really appreciate you taking the time to share with my audience today, and I wish you continued success for you and for all of your clients.
Mark, thanks for having me on.
That was Brian Church, founder of Advisory DNA. And this segment's brought to you by booksgrowbusiness.com. It's the place where busy professionals get their books done and published to educate consumers, grow their businesses, and to leave a legacy. That's all for now. I'm Mark Imperial, and thanks for joining me.